Okay, addiction designed in video games by using psychological techniques. Um, so, so a lot of us have heard of by playing or knowing someone who's played games like World of Warcraft and definitely Farmville, and the, playing them for many hours. So the question is, do we really want to keep playing? Or is something else going on? Okay, something else is going on. So what's actually happening is the companies who make these games, they've discovered these simple psychological techniques to keep people playing these games. You'll be clicking on that farm for hours and hours, just waiting for the next reward. The first technique that I want to talk about is known as the Skinner box. Okay. So for no one that's heard so for no one that's ever heard of a Skinner box, there's this psychologist who studied human behavior by doing experiments on rats. Okay, and he would put these rats in this small cage that he called the Skinner box, and in the cage you would have the rat, and then you would have lights and a lever. Every time the light turns on, if during that time the rat hits the lever, a food pellet would come out. And if the light wasn't on and he hit the lever, nothing would happen. So when the light comes on, the rat hits the lever, food a food pellet comes out, but the rat wouldn't have to hit the lever just once. Sometimes it would be once, sometimes it would be 3 times or 5 times, and the rat would never know. This is known as a variable reward schedule, and this is the key to making something addictive. So as soon as that light comes on, it's going to start hitting that lever as many times as it can. Every time the light came on and the rat hit the lever once and it got a food pellet, then every time the light would come on, the rat would be assured that pellet, so it wouldn't feel the need to have to hit it, because it knows that once it does, it's gonna get its reward. So you put it on the variable schedule, and then it's just gonna start hitting that lever as soon as the light comes on. And that's pretty much the classic Skinner box. Okay. Now, the way that these companies, video games, apply the Skinner box, if you take a game like World of Warcraft, okay, so a scenario would be that you want to upgrade to this more powerful weapon, but to get it, you need 100 of some item to make the weapon. So you need 100 of this item. The only way to get this item is by killing these very specific monsters or finding them in treasure chests. Okay, so you find treasure chests, you find the monsters. When you kill the monsters or you open the chests, the monsters might drop the item when you kill them, or the treasure chest might have the item when you open it. And not only that, they'll have a varying number of the item so that you won't know how many you'll get. So it's similar to the rat pressing the lever, because every time, because you'll try to kill that monster as often as possible, because every time you do it, every monster could potentially be the last one. The next one could be the last one that's going to get you the reward that you need. Okay? And that's what makes you want to keep playing. Okay, so there's this quote by Ian Bogast. He's a video game designer. Okay, and it says, "Many of today's console games exert a time crush. They demand tens or even hundreds of hours of attention to complete, some or most of which often feels empty. In that respect, one could argue that many games seem to destroy time, but social games do something even more violent." And he's talking about games that you play on Facebook, like Farmville, and yeah. They also destroy the time we spend away from them through obligation, worry, and dread over missed opportunities. So that's what they're doing to get you to keep playing these games. Here's some examples. Okay, so take Farmville for example. Okay, I'm not sure if it's Farmville or the other game they made, Frontierville, but okay, in the game, you have this certain number of moves, and the moves you can spend on doing things in the game, like planting things or doing whatever you need to do. Everything takes a certain number of moves, okay? And these moves, you don't have very many of them, and you can use them up very quickly. But your moves refill, but they don't refill that fast. So maybe, who knows, like 3 to 4 hours or something. And once your moves fill back up, they're not filling up any more than the maximum. So any time that passes after that is just you wasting moves that you could have if you use the moves that you have now. So if you don't come back at the right time, you're losing out on moves that you could have, that you could be using to optimize how much stuff you can do in the game. So you have to come back at that 3 to 4 hour time, however long it takes for the moves to refill. You have to keep coming back at that time. Use your moves and make sure you get the most out of them. So you're constantly having to think about what time to come back to the game to spend your moves. Again, going back to the quote, how these games destroy time that we spend away from them, by having to worry and dread over missed opportunities. Another thing that Farmville does, in the game you plant these crops, and after a certain amount of time the you have to come and harvest the crops when they're ready to be harvested. The only problem with that is if you wait just a little too long, the, the crops are going to die and you can't harvest them, and then you've wasted all that time. So if you know your crops need to be harvested, you're constantly worrying about getting to a computer and playing the game and making sure that you harvest your crops, because if you don't, those things are going to die. Again, just more of that making you worry while you're not even playing the game. So the main ethical question here is the way the companies is the way that these companies are designing their game, is it ethical? Okay. From one side, the way that I've been describing it, people would say, no, it's not ethical because uh, they feel like they've been taken advantage of psychologically. You know, these companies are making them actually worry about things when they're not even playing the game, and designing their games so that when you're playing the game, you don't want to stop playing because you're not sure when your next reward is coming. What they're doing is, you know, sort of manipulating basic human responses that we may not have full control over. From the other side, ethically, some people, especially these game designers, would say yes, it's ethical. Um, the game is designed, to make the creators money, and how do they make money other than people playing their game? It's the same thing that any company would do, which is doing something to make money. I don't agree with what they're doing, but I guess you can take it and look at it however you want. Thank you.